Hello and good evening to the Invictus Racing League. You join us today for round 8 of the Italian Grand Prix, the Monza circuit, the cathedral of speed. And tonight, and as always, I'm joined on a Wednesday night with my good friend Charlie. Charlie, how you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm really good, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here as always, and hopefully going to see some exciting racing around this very fast, iconic circuit.
Absolutely, of course, an absolutely historic track there, and of course we don't quite get to see it as much on the game, but of course one of the big talking points, well, one big tribute of the Monza circuit is the massive Tifosi. I'm sure they'll be cheering on the red cars as always, and so Spud and Colin, they know they've got a little bit of work to do coming into this race. Of course, 0 points in Hungary. They do now sit bottom of the constructors. They'll be seeing this home race as a big opportunity to try and get themselves back in amongst the points. And Charlie, also we talk about Monza. It is, as you're saying, one of the most historic tracks on the calendar, an ever-present one. We're saying, and but usually what we've been seeing on the Monday night and a Tuesday night is we probably should expect a bit of chaos tonight.
Yeah, it can be a track that can provide a bit of chaos because of its narrow sort of nature. It's very tight around here, and the slightest mistake while trying to make a move on someone, and you can find yourself having contact and inevitably end up in the wall. So the guys have got to be aware of the other cars around them tonight and ultimately just keep it clean.
Absolutely, we'll just get this qualifying session just underway very shortly as well. And of course, I'm sure they'll be very interested in the weather forecast that can particularly, not so much in real life, but it does on the game, seems to be one of those tracks where the weather really can be a roll of the dice. It's very often we see the wet weather conditions around this Italian circuit, so we'll just have to wait and see what is the clouds. And well, at least for qualifying, it looks like it's going to be all drivers. I'm sure it'll be a massive relief for some of these drivers.
Yeah, it's you definitely want it to be dry around here because this is such a tricky circuit in the wet with the heavy braking zones and the key traction zones in the slower corners as well. Yeah, it's incredibly difficult in the wet, so I'm sure these guys, like you say, are happy that it's dry.
And of course, what's the probably saying the cathedral of sport, and a lot of these guys are going to be reaching probably top speeds of around 215 miles an hour heading into that braking zone of turn one. It's a DRS down the home straight as well. It's 2 DRS straights on this circuit. Coming to the Sky chicane as well, there's the second DRS zone, so there's going to be plenty of overtaking tonight, I'm sure. Saying down to turn one, that's probably your best bet, but coming out through turns 1 and 2, coming out around Curve de Grande into the second chicane, turns 3 and 4, that can very easily get the move done there. I mean, even out the Lesmos, who's saying into the Sky chicane, if you're feeling bold, there's you can really make an overtake anywhere on this circuit as you like. And in terms of tyre wear, Charlie, it can be quite difficult on tyre wear around here. You've got to manage it. You can't be too hard on your tyres, but we are probably expecting all these guys to more or less be on the medium or softs.
Yeah, the tyre wear is very difficult to manage around here, especially on the rear tyres. I actually found myself struggling with it on Monday night. They can just overheat and really start to wear down quickly, and if you don't keep an eye on them, you can find yourself sliding all over the track coming around lap 8, lap 9 on those soft compounds. So yeah, it's going to be a key part of this race for sure.
And so it's one of those tracks where they're saying the tyre wear is quite high. Maybe starting in P11 might be a better position than starting in P10s, because you get that choice of a fresh set of tyres. Could just give you that extra lap, that little bit of fight, that little bit more pace come the race. And see there the runner, Craig, and he's of course our championship leader, and him and Luke Bailey sort of been nip and tuck. They are really in a league of their own. Coming into round 8, they have picked up far more points than the rivals. Craig currently sits top of the table with 65 points, and Lucas was 3 points behind on 62. And Simon Palmer is sat in third place behind his teammate on 34, so there's a massive gap there. He's got 31 points to recoup, and that's probably just a little bit too much. But what we saw in Hungary from the two championship leaders, Charlie, was probably the reason why they are the championship leaders, is making up for other mistakes, not making mistakes in their own. Craig started 9th, Luke 6th, they finished 2nd and 3rd. They kept it together when it was a really tricky race.
Yeah, in comparison to the rest of the grid, they've just been on a completely different level in terms of consistency. I mean, I think there's actually faster guys on the grid than them on raw pace, but yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, that does not matter. When it comes to the races, you've got to keep your head and keep it on track, and Craig and Luke have been doing that perfectly so far.
And seeing our championship leader just finishing this first sector of his first time lap. We want to get a good banker down and on the timesheets, and it will be a little bit difficult to find clear air. There's a lot of cars on the track quite nicely. The Williams ahead of him, might just be Stephen in front of him, and it might be getting just a little bit of a toe coming to the sky, which I'm sure he won't mind at all. Of course, we've got to be wary of the dirty air coming into the chicane. Of course, a very fast left, right, left, and of course the curbs as well. Particularly this final curb here, just misses it there with his front left wheel. Got to be so careful you don't hit that too hard, because that can send you, even on a qualifying set of tyres, that can send you straight into the barriers. Synchronusely and Dragio set their first lap. Synchronusely in the Renault doing a 20.3 there. Dragio just a few tenths slower, but see Craig just getting a little bit closer to this Williams, so it's a little bit of suggestion that he has got a better time, as the Williams is on the medium set tyres. And so Stephen, in fact, as Craig goes up into P3, and Stephen does 22.2 there, so a decent banker for Craig, but we have seen qualifying it's not perhaps his strongest one. Oh, is there Cryptox? Is that the exit of Ascari?
Exit of Ascari, he's just lost the rear end on one of those curbs, and that is a front wing gone for him, so he'll be needing to head back to the pits as soon as possible and replace that. It's so easy to make a mistake there, and unfortunately Cryptox has just fallen foul of that.
So it's very easily done, as Steele in the Mercedes gets himself up into P7, and one of those many drivers who seem to quite fancy having a run on the medium tyres so far. Just see, I think Crypto's just going into the pit lane now, and there's quite a few guys out there who are always trying to set down competitive lap times. So have a little look by Stephen. He's going for another flying lap, it looks like, on those medium tyres. He's got a little bit of time to find. He's about a second slower than Nitrogas, who of course took his first win in Hungary, and it was really well deserved when there was 3 different race leaders in the race. They all made mistakes. It was only when Nitrogas took the lead, our 4th different race leader, he didn't make a mistake, and he actually in fact broke a record that was previously set in Abu Dhabi by F1 Richard of his 57th race before he took that first win. So it was a massive win for him. Massive congratulations. His teammate Malc is back with him tonight. I'm sure Malc was very pleased for him, as Stephen does improve a little bit and improves his position just a little bit, and his teammate is just about to come around the parabolic now, getting a nice toe off the McLaren, and Gareth's really massively improved his qualifying of late, but it goes P8 and 21.6. I'm sure he'll be aiming to go quite a bit quicker than that.
Yeah, it's not a bad banker for Gareth, but I'm sure he's probably got a lot more pace in the bag, so he did have a good toe off F1 Richard down the back straight, but I can only feel he was slightly put off by him coming into the parabolica and just took a bit of a wide line and probably cost himself some time. So yeah, I think he'll be wanting to get a bit more clean air for his next quali run.
And just see Jeffrey heading into the pits there as well, and Jeffrey's got one of those drivers I think probably falls in that category, saying maybe on raw pace, maybe even quicker than the likes of Luke Bailey and Craig. He certainly put in a good account of himself, particularly in qualifying. Got into the lead as well in the Hungarian Grand Prix. I think he just had a spin into the wall, and I think it was very early on, about lap 2 or 3. He did recover pretty well. He recovered to 6th place after that spin, so I mean at least he got something onto the board. And looks like Gareth just going for another lap, but I think he's just backed out of it now. It's about one second down. So of course those soft tyres really can be not quite there if you go for the second push run. And looks like Simon Palmer's about to, nope, he's gone straight on at turn 1, and I expect we're seeing quite a bit of that tonight, Charlie. Quite a few people maybe losing their braking zone into the first corner.
Yeah, I think it's one of the heaviest braking zones of the year, and it's so difficult to nail, especially if you're not running ABS or anything down into there. It's so difficult, and I'm sure, like you say, we'll be seeing a lot of people make mistakes as they really try and push the limits of where they can break into that corner.
See Luke Bailey now, who's says he's actually on his out lap, so we'll move on swiftly, and we'll move on to Tinnis, who's in a Haas, and Haas just been slipping down the constructors table of late, and saying no, he's not on a lap, so we're trying to get someone who's on a flying lap.
I believe Luke is on a lap because he's running in a high ERS mode, so it might just be a glitch from the game. He is currently coming up to Ascari. Yeah, he is attacking this lap, so let's see where he goes with this.
Yellow flag there in the second sector. I think that's just one of the Toro Rossos maybe, or the red, or might be one of the Red Bulls actually, possibly in the wall. Is that possibly Malc?
Malc. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks
Malc
like he's got
in between the two Lesmos. Just lost the back end coming out of it, and has found himself in the wall. Probably needs a new front wing now as well. Yes, he does.
Meanwhile, Luke Bailey rounding out the final corner of the parabolic and goes across the line and goes to provisional pole. So 22.2 goes 3 tenths faster than his championship rival, and that'll be a big banker for him, because he knows he's probably got the beating of Craig, particularly in the qualifying, but for whatever reason just hasn't worked for him in recent races, and Craig's now got a real time to try and catch.
Yeah, Craig has, like you say, just been a bit more consistent than Luke out of the two top drivers in the races, but Luke does seem to have that extra temp sometimes in quali over Craig. But yeah, Craig's 3 tenths off at the moment. I'm sure he's got a bit more pace in the bag. How much that is, we're yet to see, but I'm sure he'll be pushing to try and steal that pole position.
I'm sure he'll be boosted to see the second runner, Synchronously, also in a very good position, just half a tenth slower than Luke Bailey in the Alfa Romeo, doing a solid job in P2. Synchronously's done a very good job in qualifying, has to be said. Hasn't quite got it all his own way. Had some good results in just towards the end of the first half of the season, in the likes of Germany in particular. Just didn't go well for him in Hungary at all. He had a DNF. I think he just lost it coming out of might have been turn 10, I think it was, in Hungary, and just went in the wall. So it was a DNF for him. I think it was quite early on as well. So quite a few DNFs, but it certainly showed that he's got the pace of his teammate, particularly in qualifying in a lot of these tracks. And I'm sure he'll be keeping an eye on his teammate now as Craig comes around the final corner. And what can he do in response to Luke Bailey's time? Well, they are 2.5 tenths quicker, 20.000. And well, with 8 minutes left in the session, it could be very soon until we get a car into the 19s.
Yeah, it's looking like we are going to see a car in the 19s as these times tumble and this track rubbers in. So a great lap by Craig, perfect lap if you're looking at it numerically. Yeah, I kind of expected he had a bit more pace in the back. He must have had a mega last sector, because he was only a tenth up on his own time going through the middle sector. So yeah, he did look pretty quick through Ascari, so I'm sure he gained some time there.
And Bernal said disqualified from the session for blocking in the pit lane. I can honestly say I don't think I've ever seen that. As Cryptox coming across the line and he goes P9 in his Toro Rosso. I think he's just trying to get out of the way of cars coming down the pit straight. So I think he's just being quite a nice customer, not wanting to get in the way of people on their flying laps. And again, for what he's clearly being too nice. And we'll see what his teammate F1 Richard can do coming out the second les mode. He's going to get an absolutely beautiful toe off this Ferrari ahead, and I think that's the Ferrari Officer Spud on the harder tyres, and he's going to get out of the way. So he's done an absolute perfect job for giving him a toe, and F1 Richard even setting a purple middle sector there. I'm sure the toe absolutely helps him, and fair play to Sir Spuds. I mean, not only getting out of the way, giving him a very nice fat toe to go with it, and you want to make sure he just gets a nice good exit out of this final corner, turn 11, the Parabolica, and when they do get their tyres worn in the race, this will suddenly become a bit more of a challenge at that final corner, I can assure you. And F1 Richard improves by seconds, over a second, 1.1, so he puts us up into P9. And still yet to see a time from Simon Palmer, who's now invalidated, and probably just put himself under a little bit of pressure, 6 minutes left in the session. But I suppose if anyone exceeds under pressure, it probably should be Simon Palmer in qualifying, because he has been pretty solid.
Yeah, I remember back in Abu Dhabi, he hadn't set a time, I believe, until the final run of quali, and he pulled a pole out of the bag on the pressure lap. So we have seen it before from Simon, and I wouldn't put it past him doing it again.
Nice, he still be there as well. He's the second man into 20.0s, and it's been an up and down season for Still. He's always proved himself to be one of the top guys of the field in terms of raw pace. I know he always a pretty good job in qualifying, and we'll see. Maybe we'll quickly tune into him. He's coming up to the Parabolica now. He's running Boyd Nitrogas, who is also going quicker. But let's see what the Williams driver can do. He's saying he's been improving his qualifying time and time and time again. He's moving on to the wheel this season, and where's he going to come across the line? Oh, it just goes a 12,000 slower than Craig. Yeah,
I was riding on board with Gareth throughout that lap, and that middle sector he really nailed. Turn 1 he made a bit of a mistake, got a bit too much curb, so I think he has still got a little bit of time in the bag. But yeah, a great lap by Gareth, and it's sort of mirrored what Craig did, so I'm sure there's about to be a better fight on for pole than we were probably expecting.
Yep, he certainly put his name into the hat in terms of conversation for that pole position spot, and I think Luke Bailey might also be on his next final lap, and he's gone a tenth and a bit quicker in that first sector, so if he can just try and find a little bit more time in the second sector, I'm sure we'll be looking pretty handy. Interesting, not seeing too many teams trying to tow as yet. Might be saving it for their final ones, because you can get a little bit of time. So he's going a tenth and a half quicker, which would put him very much around the 0.0 of the lap. So he really could be putting himself in the frame of these top three guys. If he can find a little bit of time in this last sector, particularly last corner, he could well be the first man into the 19s. We're saying he has perhaps had the better of Craig in recent races in terms of qualifying. But he's going to round out the last corner now. Of course, his teammate's still yet to set a time, but he's going to cross the line. He does go faster, and just 8 thousandths of a second quicker than his championship rival, and it's getting very, very close up front.
Yeah, this is great, to be honest. This is great to watch. They are so close, and I can only hope that they replicate this kind of pace and give us some close racing in the actual race. So yeah, it's looking to be a bit tasty at the moment.
Certainly looking very tasty as JSP, the second Mercedes, goes just about half a tenth slower, about a tenth of a second slower than his teammate to move up into P5. So good lap from him, as the tail also there of Draggio, I believe, getting out of the way of him. And 3 minutes 40 left in the session. Looks like Craig, this is brilliant. We're seeing all cars lap after lap, all doing different lap times, and we see Craig, what has he got to his spots? He's gone just about a tenth of a second faster in that first sector. The lap times are just tumbling just that little bit per lap, and have to see what the Renault driver can do in response to his championship rival heading into the 19s. Can he do it as well? Synchronously hasn't quite gone faster since his original banker.
Sorry, I was just seeing, I was riding on board with Wojtek, and he's just driven through a Toro Rosso. I'm not quite sure what's going on there. And I was flicked over to Synchronously, and he's lost it at the Ascari. He is in the wall, and he is out of qualifying, so he will not be improving his time.
Well, I hope for his sake he doesn't get in the eyesight of his teammate, because his teammate is going about half a tenth quicker, which would be enough to put him on provisional pole, at least with just under 3 minutes to go in the session. Synchronously then will not improve on his lap time. He sits on a 20.3, which is not a bad lap time at all, but he does risk dropping down more positions as Craig goes faster now. Only a little bit faster than the championship rival, but it is enough to put him on a provisional pole.
Yeah, this would be a great, if we see this in the race, have a fight between our two championship protagonists. This would certainly spice things up, and they'd want to be getting their elbows out and winning the mental battle over each other.
And Teos Draggio there, just right on board of just as he's crossing that second sector delta line, and he was going purple in it, and he seemed to be absolutely flying. Be very interesting to see if he can get himself into the 19s as well. Got pole position in Brazil, and he gets he goes provisional pole by 3 tenths of a second. I wasn't sure. I knew it'd be a good lap. I wasn't sure if I could trust the delta, because it said he was going 8 tenths of a second faster on that middle sector, but it was clearly legitimate, because I mean he's put himself in a fabulous position. Simon Palmer does finally set a lap and just pips his teammate.
Yeah, incredible lap by Draggio. He's just absolutely blown everyone out of the water. So we saw a strong performance from him back in Spa in the race, and we've known he's had pace since then. I think he's put it on pole in Brazil as well. So we've known he's got pace at certain tracks, and it's looking like Monza's suiting him just perfectly.
Let's see what his teammate can do, Cryptox, and of course, he's not going purple in that middle sector. He's going 4 tenths of a second faster on his personal best. It looks like it's just got a little bit wide in the sky. I'm sure he'll lose a little bit of time in the middle of that corner and on exit. Might be able to get a little bit of a tow off this Renault in front of him. He's going to get out of the way. Let's see if he can improve his position anyway. 1 minute 10 seconds ago, quite a few cars out on outlaps, including Luke Bailey and Gareth, Captain Stiff there, as well as both Mercedes, so there's still plenty of chances, and Cryptox does still improve his time by 2 tenths a second, but it doesn't improve his position. But I'd very much say Luke Bailey is going to have to pull out a very, and Gareth got to pull out a very, very strong lap if they want to beat Draggio.
Yeah, exactly. They do have to pull out a very strong lap if they want to beat Draggio. Colin was 8 tenths up on his lap, but he's just bailed out of that for some reason. That would have put him in and around the top 5, I believe. I'm not sure why he bailed out. It didn't say that he'd invalidated, so maybe he's just favouring starting a bit further back and working his way through the field.
See, just the flag there in that final sector. I think it's just a couple of Williams was trying to get some space. 20 seconds left in the session. I'm sure we'll see cars flying across that start-finish line to try and get one last lap, one last roll of die. Our top three at the moment are currently sat in the pit lane. That's Sergio, Craig and Simon Palmer. So it's really down to the cars behind them to try and throw them off the top three in qualifying. As Luke Bailey's going slower.
Unfortunately, Jeffrey will not be improving his time, as on his out lap, I believe he was on the out lap, it says here that he has lost it coming out of the second Lesmo and found himself in the wall with a broken front wing, so that spoiled Jeffrey's chances, although he will be starting outside the top 10 on a fresh set of tyres.
And Luke Bailey doesn't look like he's going to be improving at all, because he's just looked like just had a little bit of a messy Lesmo couple of corners there, and he's decided to back out of it, so he won't be improving. This Gareth spins it coming out the second chicane and lights up those rear tyres, and I'm sure he'll be disappointed with that. I'm sure he's trying to find all the time he could possibly get. I mean, he sat on a very nice lap time, just a tenth off second place really, but that's another driver who I'm sure, well, if you're Craig, Simon Palmer, Treasure, you probably don't mind seeing that. Still maybe, of course, he's on a 20.0 in his own right. If he's going faster, he could well pip one of them off their perch into, it comes across the start finish line, and he does it just a few thousandths slower than Treasure. He goes P2, a fabulous lap from Steele, the Mercedes driver.
Yeah, another great lap. It's only really Steele and Treasure that have had those few extra attempts in them, and we've seen a few guys really trying to push, like as we saw Gareth, and also Tinnis out of Lesmo 2 found himself in the wall and with a broken wheel. So it just shows how hard these guys are pushing, trying to find time around here, and it can be an incredibly unforgiving track if you do make a mistake.
Absolutely, and see there the Williams, I think they're more or less the last man on track. It's just going to come into the pit lane. Sure, be a little bit disappointed about that last lap. Only he will know how much time he felt he had left in the bag. But P6 is not a bad qualifying position at all. And as we're saying, Charlie, track position, or at least qualifying around here, you want to be around the front. But I suppose it doesn't really matter too much if you're not on pole position. You start maybe third and fourth, like Craig and Simon Palmer, because they will know come the third lap when DRS is initiated, that you can really gain. It doesn't matter if you're maybe 6, 7, 8 tenths of a lap slower than the car in front of you. If you can stay in the slipstream and the DRS, you're not going to be left behind.
Yeah, that DRS is definitely worth, I'd say, at least half a second a lap, if not more, as you say. And if you can stay within the second of the car in front for the first 2 laps, you'll probably find yourself in a bit of a train, and then you'll be able to manage fuel and ERS from there, and hopefully tyres. But if you find yourself battling, you could quickly wear those tyres out.
And there we are, then there's confirmation of our grid starting for the race. And see Drazier, I'm sure he sat in the pits while Steele was doing his last lap, maybe sweating a little bit as he was watching the Mercedes just cross the line, just 13,000 of a second slower. Craig will be very happy with P3. He's ahead of his championship rival. Simon Palmer, it splits the first and second championship man. Luke Bailey in P5, Gareth in P6, JSP, Mercedes driver in P7. Synchronously crashed out, but did a good banker to get himself P8. Wojtek is 9th, Tinnis in a Haas is a 10th, Stephen 11th, Jeffrey 12th, the 2 Red Bulls 13th and 14th. And we've got a few guys obviously there at the back, including the 2 Ferraris. But of course, if you're a Ferrari fan, you want to. I know this is the Italian Grand Prix. They are mad for Ferrari, and the Ferrari's not really qualifying near the front there, at the back. But probably shouldn't be too surprised. In qualifying, they haven't really been there. They've sort of been quite relaxed about their qualifying performances, it seems, and always being quite keen to maybe try the alternate strategy. But it seems particularly it's been a quite tough start of the season for the 2 Ferrari drivers, but there have been signs that they're trying to get it back on the moving in the right direction in the race.
Yeah, they like you say, they have been a bit relaxed, so to say, in qualifying, and I think the alternate strategy could work here today, but ultimately you've got to sort of factor in safety cars when thinking about your strategy, and I think the possibility of a safety car can ruin the alternate strategy. So personally, if I were them, if they're confident with their race pace, I'd be starting on the softs and trying to pick my way through the field.
I'm sure there'll be plenty of accidents as well to try and give them a few free positions, and I'm sure if you're Craig and Luke, you'll be absolutely petrified, because they will know deep down just the sort of chaos that Monza really can throw into the bag. And I'm sure they'll be just making sure They don't pick up any wing damage because we're saying the heavy braking zones. It's the fast speeds mixed with the incredible heavy braking zones. 3 chicanes around here. That's turn 1 and 2, turns 4 and 5, and of course the Escaro chicane. So you're going to be using your left foot for the braking very, very, very a lot round this circuit, and these guys just be starting the formation lap very, very soon. Of course, another man we should probably mention there, Brennan, he's going to be starting at the back. Probably again, it'd be a little bit disappointed. He's really picked up his qualifying in there, but the McLarens don't really have. Hasn't really been a strong suit of the 2 McLarens, but F1 Richard down there 15th as well. As you see, there's a Ferrari Collins 16th, Cryptox at 17th, so Spud 18th, and Brennan's of course got disqualified, is P19. But we should probably expect the 2 McLarens to pull forward, Charlotte, because they've probably proved themselves to be, at least in terms of midfield, probably best of the rest in terms of on race pace.
Yeah, I think, like you say, we could expect to see them move forward. Especially Brennan's, he's been really strong in the race and has managed to keep it clean quite a lot, and has pulled off some really good overtakes as well. And yeah, Richard as well. He's been unfortunate, I think, the last few races. He seems to get caught up in a few incidents, but that's probably just because of the lack of pace in qualifying. You can find yourself down in the mid pack, and ultimately you will get caught up in something from time to time.
Yep, absolutely. And of course, if you can't wait for a race and you want to see more action, well, we've got plenty of it for you. If on the Sunday nights on 9:30 PM we have the Xbox League that is brought to you on Twitch. You can find that at twitch.tv/Invictus Racing League. Monday nights we have the F1 League, the F1 Equal League that is, and that'll be round 9 around the Canada circuit, the Jules Villeneuve circuit. That'll be Monday night 8 PM. That's brought to you by Gareth and Sab. Tuesday night, that's a Realistic Performance League. That is 8 PM by Malc and Tim, and of course F2 runs parallel of us every Wednesday. And you can find us on all the socials: Instagram at Invictus Racing League, you can find us on Twitter at Invictus RL, you can find us on Facebook at Invictus Racing League. And of course, if you're enjoying it and what are you doing, hit the like button, hit subscribe, and of course get some conversation going in the chat room as well. See who you guys are supporting as well. Seems like got a couple of people wishing on Jeffrey for this race as well, and a little bit of a surprise to see Jeffrey down in P12. As we were saying, he's really had a really good qualifying pace in particular so far this season, so I'm sure he'll be a little bit disappointed by the qualifying, but we're saying he will have fresh tyres, and tyre wear will factor in quite a lot today, I'm sure. But I'm sure safety cars will be about, and be a really good chance for perhaps a good strategy to pip their way through. But it seems we have all 19 cars forming up on the grid, and now all just waiting for this 5 lights. We usually get a lot of chaos into turn 1, but we're at 5 lights and they're just waiting, just teasing the cars, and they have gone out, and there's going to be a really good start by the Toro Rosso driver. They're going to try and cover off the Mercedes of Still B. It looks like he's got it done. Craig's got a very nice start as well. He's going to tuck in the TRS, the slipstream of the Toro Rosso, going to peel to the outside, might even try and move for the lead. He's going to think better of it, kind of file in for P2. Got a little of the Alfa Romeo's going side by side as well. Got a yellow flag at the back. That might be one of the McLarens, or maybe the second Toro Rosso. As they're not going to come around Curve de Grande. It's a really nice start by Droggio. He's stretched his legs already off Craig, and the 2 Alphas still looking like they're a little squabbling. Gaff's going to fall in behind them. Synchronicity P7. Stevens made up progress into P8, and looks like it's been a pretty clean getaway so far.
Yeah, it's pretty clean. Wojtek has dropped a lot of positions here. I think he might have had a bit of an issue at the start. I'm not sure if he's got damage. I believe he has actually. Wojtek has picked up front wing damage, so he's down 8 positions now, and he's going to need to pit to change that. F1 Richard and Cryptox drops a couple of places each at the back.
And see the Ferrari Colin there, he's moved up 6 positions already. He's into the top 10, so he's doing all the Ferrari fans a massive cheer onto this first lap. But it's Droggio who leads Craig, and it's like, oh, they're all struggling for grip. Out of Ascari, Simon Palmer looks like he's picked up 3rd place, as Tinnis has perhaps lost it. Yeah, he's gone straight in the wall. A virtual safety car on exit Ascari on lap 1. As you're saying, Ascari is such a difficult corner to get right in qualifying, yet alone the race, and we already have our first victim of it.
Yeah, and unfortunately, like we were saying, it is so difficult, and he's fallen foul of that difficult corner, and I'm sure he won't be the only victim tonight, unfortunately.
No, but it's a perfect start from Droggio, and I'm sure he'd be a little bit pleased that it's a virtual safety car, not a full course safety car, because he got a pretty decent turn first lap, you have to say. He's currently Well, I've got a 1.7 second gap, and we'll have to see how that comes down when the virtual safety car comes in. But it's crucial for Drazier. If he can try and break away from the Renault driver, he could be on for an easy afternoon.
Yeah, definitely, and we saw actually also on that opening lap, Simon Palmer claim a victim out of the exit of Ascari. He Steel B got a little bit of a wobble on, and Simon was there to pounce and take third position off of Steel. So yeah, that gap down now between Craig and Drazier to 0.8 seconds, so he needs to stick there if he wants that DRS benefit after this lap.
Right on the board now then with Luke Bailey, as you see Craig seems to have brought the gap down massively to Drazier. Just wondering if the Toro Rosso driver maybe had just a little bit of a snoozy restart to the virtual safety car potentially, or just maybe a poor run out one of the Lesmos. But Simon Palmer can really race it out of that Sky chicane. He's pulled off a little bit of a distance gap, and he's going to maybe look to the inside. No, he's going to think better of it on the Renault driver, but he's looking very strong coming out at that Ascari corner. I'm sure a lot of these guys are going to be perhaps a little bit scared to touch that last curb. It really can spin you around like they've just seen their rival Tinnis do it, and it's not been a great start for Haas at all. Wojtek at the back with damage. I think he came into the pits at the end of that first lap, and his teammate out of the race, so it's not going well for Haas. See all these cars weaving with the left and right, trying to break the slipstream, trying to break that massive drag benefit. And but so far it's looking quite nice for Drazier, but he will know DRS will be installed later on this lap, and Craig is doing what he needs to do. He's staying well within it.
Yeah, unfortunately it looks like F1 Richard was caught up in an incident after that VSC restart and has dropped back down way behind last place, way behind 16th place, sorry, and he's got a lot of time to make up. He hasn't got damage though, so a safety car could bring him back into it. Simon Palmer has set the fastest lap of the race, and he's looking like he's got really good race pace at the moment, keeping pushed up on the back of Craig as well.
See Drazier trying to just jinx the slipstream of the Renault behind. The Renault driver won't go for a move into the Sky chicane, but I'm sure he's just sort of teeing up first place, and but he's got to be careful because he's in a really nice position at the moment. He knows, and once again Simon Palmer getting an absolute rocket of a launch out the Sky chicane. Is he going to look down and move into the parabolica? It's going once again just a little sniff, but he's going to think better of it. But he must be having so much confidence in his car and the stability and his setup, because he's getting such a good run out the Sky chicane, but it's not got quite such a good one at the parabolica. And of course Craig will have DRS ahead of him, as Still does set the fastest lap of the race, and once again Drazier just weaving right and left, and I'm sure Craig just biding his time a little bit. He knows it's a long race ahead of him, and his championship rivals not just behind him, he's a few places behind him in 5th place, so he's in the moment he's in a pretty good position to pick up some very good points. As you look further down, most drivers outside the top, well, from 10th place down minus F1 Richard, are all on the medium tyres, and the McLaren of Brennon's on the hards there, so these guys, their phase of the race will come later on. It's important that it's particularly Jeffrey there in P10, he's going to want to try and catch up to the DRS zone of Stephen in the Williams. But looks like Craig's just had a little bit of a sloppy lap so far, because he's dropped about a 1.1 second gap, and the last thing he wants to do is let Drazier get away and fall into the clutches of the Alfa Romeo.
Yeah, Craig really needs that DRS, because Simon will not hesitate to pass him and probably do his teammate a favour in the championship. So Craig needs to claw that time back as soon as possible.
Simon Palmer going really late on the brakes again. See, and he's just and he very nearly went straight in about it. I mean, I thought he was a goner there, to be honest. We're saying what confidence he's got. I think his confidence might be slightly wounded coming out the exit of Ascari on that lap.
Yeah, I think he's getting a bit brave on that final curb on the left hand side, and it's just thrown him. As soon you can straight line over that curb. If you keep the wheel perfectly straight, you can ride it. But as soon as you make the slightest turn going over that curb, you can find yourself falling foul of that corner, and unfortunately Simon lost the back end coming out of there, as he's just made a move on his teammate down to turn 1.
Well, he's clearly not overheated his tyres too much, trying to save that. See Gareth coming in, a bit of pressure there from the Renault St. Canousli as well. You've got to say well played to him for holding on to it, but Hatzman has dropped a position to Still B, and Still B is now 1.3 seconds behind Craig as well. So the top two, if they play their cards right and keep it clean, is Still B going onto the curb of the second chicane there, and what it really can do if you take too much curb is just literally launch your car almost on 2 wheels, and that's exactly what happened to the Mercedes driver there. Pit him in the gravel, and that's now allowed both Alfa Romeos straight back through. That's something we can quite often see. And well, once again, that now means the gap to Simon Palmer and Craig is now 1.9 seconds, so it's going really well for the Renault driver.
Yeah, that was unfortunate for Steele. It's a really easy mistake to make. I'll admit I've done it myself as well. So your car literally does just get launched up in the air, and there's not much you can do. You just have to catch it when it comes back down, and you only drop back to P5, so it's not too much of a nightmare.
And just wondering what Luke Bailey might be saying in the ear to his teammate. Of course, he let his teammate go into turn 1 on the last lap. Is he going to be hoping for the same sort of service? As see Simon Palmer there, he's saving EOS down the straight, so he might well get an easy pass on his teammate this lap. They are set 3rd and 4th, and I'm sure Craig won't quite like that because Craig doesn't have the DRS. On the rest of this, looks like Steele's gone straight on at turn 1, completely missed his braking zone, misses both Alfa Romeo. It's going to cut the corner. He's fortunately for him, he's got a little bit of a cushion to Gareth, because Gareth is thinking only about the Renault of Synchronuzzi just struggling, maybe not quite got the top speed that he needs to pass that Williams driver. Is going to have a little bit of a look, but I'm sure I'll be seeing that a lot of that tonight as well, just locking up, maybe going a little bit deep into turn 1, but he has now lost DRS on the Alfa Romeo, so we could have a little bit of a couple of different groups of cars forming.
Yeah, I've been riding on board with Simon and watching the battle between him and Luke, and Simon has really just depleted his battery pack. He didn't have anything left down that straight, and he did defend from his teammate though, interestingly, so looking like he's not willing to help him out on the championship points as we are in the middle of round 8, which is quite interesting to see.
And just seeing Gareth there going through this guy chicane, just sat in P6 where he started, of course, and probably just biding his time a little bit, going right on board with the 2 Alfa Romeos, in particular Luke Bailey. Does interesting to say he's used up all his battery pack, and it might be an easier pass for him than this time if he hasn't got the battery to defend with. He's in a DRS zone, he's in the slipstream, but is he going to make it life easy for his teammate? It looks like Luke Bailey's going to go down the inside, and he's going to, nope, it looks like he's going to try it around the outside, but no, he lets his teammate go, and of course now means our 2 championship rivals are now right behind each other.
Yeah, I was just riding board with Jeffrey down that main straight. He did seem to have an easy pass on those Stephen Dunn down into turn 1, but he's gone too deep and he's cut across the chicane and had to hand those Stephen the position back. So Jeffrey's has got a pretty decent pace on these medium tyres, and he was obviously looking to make his way through the field, but a small mistake cost him there. Got Gareth round, have we?
I think he might have just gone in the gravel with that second chicane and just absolutely done a 360 degrees. And it's to amount his problems even more. He's just seen a Ferrari come around his outside of the Lesmo corner, probably trying to get his tyres back under temperature, and that has dropped him not just from P6 all the way down to P13. And of course, as you're saying, tyre wear is a big thing right here that might have contributed to it, but with that spin you can imagine his tyres are going to be absolutely boiling.
Yeah, his tyres are surely now, after a spin like that, are going to be crying out for help, and luckily he's got a couple of straights to try and cool them down again if he does want to do another couple of laps, but I'm sure he'll be able to pit now if he does feel the need to. And
our race leader Drazier now got a 2.8 second gap to the Renault of Craig. It's going very, very, very nicely for the Toro Rosso driver. He's doing just fine, clearly looking after his tyres well enough. The Renault Craig perhaps just struggling a little bit. The gap between him and his rival Luke Bailey's come down to 1.4, so the Alfa Romeos do seem to be just cutting a little bit into his lead there, and so still looks like he's cut turn 1 again there potentially. And Simon Palmer goes around his teammate round Curve de Grande. So Simon Palmer not quite playing the team game. He seems very keen to get ahead of his teammate, maybe feeling like he has a bit more pace in that Alfa right now. Yeah,
it was interesting to see. Luke is really actually feeling the pressure from his own teammate at the moment, and he went a bit deep into turn 1. That obviously put him offline for turn 2 and the exit there. We've got a mistake from Jeffrey.
I think he's done what I can only assume was exactly the same as what Gareth did. Just in the second chicane, just you can see him in the background, just going off into the gravel, comes back across the track. But unfortunately for him, he hasn't gone a 360 or whatever. He's gone straight into the wall nose first, and he's in fact damaged his front wing. So he's dropped down to P15. He started on those medium tyres as well. So you'd think his only strategic option now is to come in for a set of hards, change that front wing, and go to the end. Which I think is what Gareth's done as well. At least Gareth stuck into the pits at some point.
Yeah, Gareth has stuck a set of the hard tyres on, and he's got F1 Richard right behind him actually on a set of softs, so it's probably not worked out ideally for Gareth, because he's now probably going to be drawn into a battle with F1 Richard. And
the Alfa Romeo is going to swap positions again, and Luke Bailey moves up into P3, into turn 1. Simon Palmer just lets go of his teammate, but they're going to make sure the squabbling doesn't affect them too much. You know, they can't really start busting each other anywhere other than the fast long straight into turn 1, as Synchronously picks up a 3-second time penalty for corner cutting there, which is if there's anything for him, it's probably see quite a lot of that tonight, we would imagine. But because the gap is back up at 2 seconds as Jeffrey retires in the pit lane, and clearly not in the mood to wait for a safety car. He knows his mistake has cost him dear tonight. And but 2.2 is the gap between the Renault and the Alfa Romeo of Luke Bailey, and Craig was still hovering around 3 seconds behind Giorgio. And I would imagine these soft runners are very soon beginning to lick their lips at a set of new mediums very soon.
Yeah, I expect to see maybe even someone in this lap, but definitely over the next couple of laps, that change over onto the medium tire. I feel like Gareth could have gone onto the medium and recouped a bit of that time that he lost, but obviously he didn't feel confident enough to do so from such an early lap. But yeah, it's interesting with this battle between the Alfa Romeos. I think it's fine as long as they're passing each other on the DRS straight, as we see Simon peel off into the pits now. He's on the undercut, and Giorgio as well. I think it's fine as long as they're giving each other a slingshot with the DRS on the straight, but all this battling through the corners is only helping Craig and Giorgio get away in front, so they're not exactly helping themselves at the moment.
And we'll just see where our net race leader is going to come out in. Craig will certainly be hoping he's going to come out in a lot of traffic, and it's going to be quite close with the McLaren, but it looks like he's going to just about pull ahead of him, and he's going to get just a couple of seconds gap maybe of clear air. So it's critical now for Craig. If he wants to, the undercut can, if you get a very good outlap, you can get probably not far off a second if you really do nail it. So Craig knows he's going to have a good inlap, and interestingly Simon Palmer, despite being the second Alfa Romeo, does pit first, so it'll be really interesting to see where the two Alphas come out in response to each other. But it looks like Craig maybe just struggling with his tyres a little bit, because the gap has come down from 2 seconds to about 1.5 to his tyre to rival Luke Bailey. So Luke Bailey, you know, not under pressure from his teammate on this lap, is really letting his car go, and but he picks up a 3 second time penalty there, just cut the inside of the Sky chicane, which is very easily done. And I'm sure Craig, when he hearing about that one in his team radio, I'm sure he'd be maybe just taking a little bit easier on the corner cutting, because he knows he doesn't have to necessarily beat his championship rival Luke Bailey on track now if he doesn't get a penalty. But I'm sure we will be seeing a lot of that tonight.
Yeah, I'm sure there'll be more penalties being picked up by the guys. Just seen Giorgio pass Spud quite easily with the DRS down on the run to Ascari, and he's now behind his teammate, and I'm sure he'll be want his teammate to peel out the way pretty quickly for him.
And looks like I've got a very slow pit stop going on for the Alfa Romeo boys. I'm not quite sure what's going on here. They don't seem in a rush whatsoever. We'll see where Giorgio comes out in terms of his position to Craig, and it looks like he's very comfortably retained. It's probably about 3 seconds, probably about what it was. It looks like we've got a little bit of traffic from the Ferraris. We've got something. Oh, Giorgio going into the gravel there, and Cryptox.
Yeah, looked like they battled, but Simon has come out right alongside, or behind now, Craig. As they came down into turn 1, they were side by side. Simon was just having a little look around the outside, but thought better of it. But this has brought Simon and the Alpha right into play with Craig now, so I'm sure we'll be seeing a battle between these two for the rest of the race.
Of course, his tyres are already fired up to perfect condition and temperature, and Craig, well, his tyres will be 1 lap better, but of course got to get him up to optimal temperature so far. But he's got the Brennon's McLaren in front of him, and he's going to have to deal with that first. So he's going to have to look forward and behind. So it's all eyes on the McLaren right now for our championship leader Simon Palmer. Oh, just going super deep on the brakes in the Sky, almost into the gravel. I thought for a moment he's going to wipe out the Renault driver there, and saying early laps he was very confident into a Sky chicane, maybe just getting a little bit too overconfident again. But going to put him on the back foot to his teammate, who's going to probably watch Craig. He's going to bide his time through the parabolica to try and get a good exit. It doesn't look like the McLaren's going to have DRS on a Ferrari ahead, so there should be a routine pass for the Renault driver. Just like Giorgio as well, smoothed up a couple of places. He knows he's got to try and keep tabs with the Toro Rosso, but Simon Palmer is now right on the back of the pair of them, and he knows he wants to see still coming up the pits just behind these two. Craig does get the move done on the McLaren driver, and Simon Palmer and Luke Bailey wanted to do the exact same very soon, I'd imagine, maybe even on this straight.
Yeah, that was key for Craig to clear those before, to clear Brennan, before the Alphas come through. But I believe Simon Palmer's got a good run on Brennan's down into turn 4 now. Is he going to be brave on the brakes? He is, and is Brennan's going to give him the space? He does. Brennan's backs out, and Simon through into P7.
just kicking the rear out of it on the exit of that second chicane, just bouncing over the curbs. Thankfully it didn't launch him in the gravel like it has a couple of drivers tonight. And of course it's now crucial. He's just hovering at that second gap, so Craig has pulled up a little bit of time, and he's got in the DRS zone of the Ferrari of the Spud, so if he can get the move done, as now watch Luke Bailey now side by side with the McLaren. He'll want to pass him very quickly as well, and Reynolds, I think he knows he's in a race of his own, really. He's not really truly racing these guys, and he sort of lets him through, and still I'm sure he'll be trying to line out the McLaren for a pass, probably down the home straight in just a matter of moments as well. In fact, he's very close. Looks like he's going to go for the move into the Parabolica, but a brave move for it. He's got much better tyres, and he makes the move stick, so he wants to keep up with these Alphas at all costs. And looks like Craig, can he get a job done on this Ferrari driver? The Tifosi, I'm sure, will be cheering on the red cars, but it's going to be the yellow and black car who's going to make a move into turn 1. He's even saving EOS, doesn't want to lose any time whatsoever. It's a nice, comfortable move into turn 1, and Spud just gets out of it. And once again, I'm sure Craig will try and build as much of a gap as he can before the Alfa Romeo is following through. Yeah,
this is great driving by Craig in terms of keeping position over his championship rivals. He's just putting a car in between himself and the two Alphas each time, and it's worked out perfectly for him, because by the time the Alphas get past this Ferrari now, there'll be no chance of DRS for Simon and Luke. So a good move by Steele down into the Parabolica as well, just the lap before. That was crucial for his race, to be keeping up with the Alphas and challenging for that podium.
So yeah, the Ferrari of Colin as well in the lead. He's got a couple of Red Bulls following him through though. Both of them have to pit, as well as the Ferrari driver, as we see Simon Palmer, Luke Bailey swapping positions. Simon Palmer just coming off the footle there and just letting his teammate through, very close to the back of him as well. And I'm sure Luke Bailey can just see that black speck of his championship just driving away a little bit. If he's wanting to get past this Ferrari on this next straight, the Ferrari might just have DRS on Craig, which could potentially work in the Renault driver's favour.
No, Simon is round, still went down the outside of him into Parabolica, and I think Simon just came across the track and tried squeezing Steele to the outside a bit too much, and he's just caught him, and he sent the Alpha round, and unfortunately for Simon, that is looking like his podium battle over, unless there's a safety car.
Well, it has released his teammate to go and make an offensive on the Ferrari, but it hasn't got the job done into turn 1. But he has got a very nice exit, much better tyres than the Ferrari, I suppose, of course. And they're going to come around the curve to Grande, going to look around the outside. It's going to peel out of the slipstream. It's not quite close enough. He's going to make it very clear that he wants that inside line into the second chicane. Thinks better of it, probably thinking of the championship. It would have to be a very good and late move onto the brakes. Flick's quite not feeling it. Going to have a little look out to Lesmos. I'm sure he'll be looking at a move at Ascari now as his next best overtaking opportunity. We'll try and follow the Ferrari best he can. Of course, it's quite difficult with the dirty air, but you can just see Craig just driving away from these guys as their car picks up 3 seconds for multiple warnings. And Craig's got 1.7 gap on these two now, but it looks like it's going to be a job done for Luke Bailey into the Ascari chicane. Renault backs out, and still behind picks up 3 seconds, which hasn't helped him, because it could potentially be in, because that has really handed his fight now for a podium position. But of course Luke Bailey as well has got a penalty, but Craig crucially yet to pick one up, it seems.
Yeah, it's crucial for the podium fight and obviously the championship fight in the end, but Steele is doing really well to follow Luke through now, and has picked up DRS again this lap, so Steele is looking pretty handy here and could be challenging Luke for that final podium position.
He's certainly putting on a really good show of himself, and Dracio 5.4 seconds clear of the Renault, and it looks like he's going to try and move around the outside of Curtis Grande on the Red Bull, of course, sister car to the Red Bull team, the Toro Rosso car, and he's going to try it down the inside of turns 4 and 5. The Red Bull gets out of the way. I think Malc knew his tyres were far worse than Toro Rosso, and he's not really racing Toro Rosso driver today, and doesn't put up too much of a fight, and of course he just wanted to get his head down and try and make the most of his tyres before he comes into the pits. And I'm sure these guys on the mediums who are yet to pit, Colin, Nitro Gas and Malcolm, I'm sure they'll be probably pitting quite soon, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I'm expecting them in around this lap or the next couple as well, so yeah, it won't be long for those, and maybe a few of them are just biding their time, seeing if, you know, give it an extra lap or two, see if there's a safety car, because that could jump them way up the order and play massively into their hands. But yeah, if there's not, I expect them to be in next lap.
And be interesting to see. It looks like Luke Bailey is just caught up into the DRS zone of Craig, as the Ferrari of Colin does pit this lap. He's in for a new set of soft tyres, I'd imagine, as Nitro Gas The race winner of the Hungarian Grand Prix now comes through to take the lead, and saying looks like Luke Bailey, who looks like he's really making a couple of bit of inroads into the Renault drivers' lead there, because the Renault had broken DRS temporarily, but it's a new fast lap of the race by Steele. DRS assisted, of course, but it's going to be a real three-car fight for second and third on the podium. And looks like, of course, Craig's yet to pick up a penalty, so he's got that going for him. But it seems like even though he's broken the DRS a couple of times, it looks like he just doesn't quite have the same pace as perhaps Steele and Luke Bailey at the moment.
It's looking that way at the moment. Maybe he doesn't quite have that pace. It is hard when you're out in front just to, and you've got no one really to chase, because Drago's 5 seconds up the road. So it is hard to keep your head down and just nail every lap. And when you've got cars behind you picking up that slight slipstream, it's an incentive for them to go and chase. So it's difficult for Craig, but I'm sure he's going to give all he can to try and fend off the 2 cars behind.
I'm sure he'll be cheering on his teammate as well. Synchronicity, as I said, hasn't had it all his own way. Must be also pretty hard as well, seeing your teammate being top of the championship, but he's having a really nice battle with JSP, and they've got to get on. But they've got a couple of positions to gain for when the lights are spurred. Brennon's and Nitrogas come into the pit lane, so it could be a couple of positions. In fact, Nitrogas does now come into the pit lane, but with Simon Palmer now down to P10, there is a chance for Renault to try and pick up some good constructors points on Alpha. Alpha do lead the constructors championship by a distance of 18 points over the Renault team. As a virtual safety car, as Cryptox.
Wojtek has lost it coming out of the Ascari, and he's found himself in the wall. That is the reason for the virtual safety car. I'm not entirely sure how he lost it. I'm assuming over that last big curb on the left. He's probably got a bit greedy, so unfortunately Wojtek has found himself as the latest victim of Ascari.
And the virtual safety car now coming to an end. So it's green flag, and of course DRS instantly enabled, which will be music to the sounds of the Alfa Romeo driver's ears of Luke Bailey. He's just half a second behind his championship rival of the Renault. And Craig, well, he knows probably at this point, he's probably asked his engineer Jeff of the situation of the Alfa Romeo behind him, and he will tell him he's got a 3-second time penalty. He might even know the same fact of the Mercedes behind him of Steele B also having a 3-second time penalty. So it looks like Luke Bailey again there taking a lot of Astra on the inside of that Sky chicane. You see Drago in the distance. Teo Rosso having an absolutely blinding race from pole position. Already won a race this season, Drago, and he's looking very, very handy to perhaps be the first man to stop the ridiculous route we've had this season of 7 different race winners out of 7, as Nitrogas kept the run going last week around the Hungaro ring. But Drago might be the man to stop it. But we're going to see what the Alfa Romeo driver does. He knows he's going to have to try and get it done on track unless Craig picked up a penalty himself, and has to try and break a 3-second gap. But coming into turn 1, he's not quite close enough on this occasion. He's got to be wary of course as well, because the Mercedes is looking so racy behind him, as looks like Brennon's just losing a place there to JSP. As JSP in fact getting a corner cutting 3-second time penalty. And might have to see what that was about. But it's looking very nicely so far for Drago. He's got a nearly 6-second gap, and I'm sure the more these guys squabble, the more easier an afternoon it will be for Drago. And of course, he's now crucially also got that little bit of a gap where if he does pick up a corner cutting penalty, just like Spud has with 3 seconds multiple warnings, he's still in a position where he will still take home the flag, even if Craig doesn't. But Craig's got to look in his mirrors coming into Ascari. It's probably unlikely Luke Bailey will try anything, but once again, these two just really, once again, drivers like Drago maybe on their day are quicker than these two, but Luke Bailey and Craig showing why they're the championship top 2, and it's going to be really interesting. It looks like Luke Bailey's got a bit between his teeth right now.
Yeah, he's looking that way. He's putting the pressure on Craig, and for Craig it is extra difficult being that car in front without the DRS. You find yourself using a lot of your battery power to defend down the straights, and the guys behind, if they want to sit there and just charge up, they can, which I believe is what Luke and Steele are doing at the moment. So they're looking like they're planning for an attack at the end of the race.
It's always great to see the 2 championship rivals going head to head on track. Looks like Craig is getting a little bit of a poor exit there, and he did go defensive into turn 1. Will we go defensive into the second chicane? He's going to hug the inside of Curtis Grande. No, he's going to come into the middle of the track. He's going to make the Alfa Romeo go the long way around. Luke Bailey is going to go down the inside of the second chicane. Thinks better of it when it just sweeps across, but he's gone a little bit deep. Can Luke Bailey get a bit of exit? Craig is not letting his championship rival have a little bit of a sniff of a move, And Luke Bailey, I think, as we're saying, just thinking of the championship, he knows he can bide his time. It is, as you're saying, harder to put a car in front. Luke Bailey can just perhaps save a bit of fuel, save a little bit of ERS. You can see on his dashboard there, he's got 70% of his battery left. And so does he think of a move of a Sky? So you can just hear the engine note, just twining down a little bit. See him just getting off the throttle. He's not comfortable making a move in there, and I'm sure, as we're saying, just not probably biding his time. And when you're in such a train like this, Charlie, if you Luke Bailey, it could possibly be a good strategy to maybe just sit behind him and go for a move on the last 2 or 3 laps when you've got maximum fuel to run to the ends and battery power.
Yeah, it definitely is a good strategy, as you say, but it's not looking like Craig's going to have much of an answer. Luke is going to have to go past at some point. I believe he is in overtake now. Are we going to see a move down to turn 1? Craig just covers him, and there's slight contact between the two. Who is going to be braver on the brakes? It is Craig. Craig's a little bit deep. Is Luke going to get the switch back on him? He's got a good drive out of turn 2, but Craig looking like he's just got it covered.
He's going to try and come back under the slipstream. It's so close between the top two. He's going to go around the outside of Curve de Grano. This time he's a little bit closer. He's going to turn his engine down to try and save a little bit of battery. Is Craig going to let him have it? No, he's both going to fight it, and they're both going to end up in the gravel. The two championship rivals are in the gravel trap of the second chicane. Craig's going to get out of it first. Still B says thank you very much and flies through into a second position. Luke Bailey, and it just seemed like it's just such a coming together. Luke Bailey came down the inside, but Craig broke late. Didn't want to give up the move, and it seems it's such a tight corner. It just seems 2 doesn't go into 1 all too well on there.
Yeah, 2, like you say, 2 doesn't go into 1, and looking like Luke had the inside line and was just trying to take his line, and Craig did not want to give up, and ultimately the 2 came together, like as you'd expect when 2 try and go through there. And I was just about to say actually before that, Steele must be licking his lips watching these 2 battle, because the slightest mistake and he's going to slide right through, and he did.
And man, we shouldn't take our focus off is Nitrogas, the race winner of last week, the man who record-breaking win of his first win in his 57th race. He's the man on a brand new set of soft tyres, and he's just passed Mercedes of JSP on those soft tyres, and I'm sure he'll be sort of just smelling the second winner of Synchronously. He's only 1.5 seconds behind. If he can just keep the Mercedes car behind for now, which he does into turn 1, if you just break a little bit of a gap, he knows there's potentially more places up for grabs here, Nitrogas, and had a fabulous result, and of course his teammate as well into P10, so this could be with chances of Gareth in front of him. Only 1.4 seconds, and Gareth of course on old hard, so this could be a really good result for the Red Bull team in terms of constructors points today. And but I'm sure Luke Bailey's now I mean, his blood must be a little bit boiling after when the adrenaline kicks in, particularly when the driver you've just had contact with is the driver you're fighting for in the drivers' championship. But he's got to get his head down, hasn't he? Because with the 3-second time penalty, he knows he's got to not just pass Craig on track, but he's got to get in front of him and time to try and break a bit of a lead.
Yeah, he's back into that DRS 1 second buffer, and I'm sure, I was just thinking, I'm sure we've not heard the last of that battle. Luke will be fuming under that helmet, trying to get that position back. So, yeah, like you say, he's got to get past him and break 3 seconds, which on pace I don't know if he'll be able to do, but I'm sure he won't give up the fight this early.
And see the Red Bull of Malc, as we say, 2 Red Bulls on the alternate strategy and looking very racy as we're heading to the final 6 laps now. And it looks like he's just biding his time behind the Williams of Gareth from 13-lap-old hards. They're absolutely no match for the 5-lap-old soft tyres of Malc. And of course, Malc couldn't make it last week, and I'm sure he was cheering on his teammate when he got onto the top step of the podium, but he's going to try and pull to the outside. He's saving a little bit of battery coming into turn 1, but Gareth's going to pull into the inside, back into the slipstream. And it's a very nice move done there for the Red Bull team, who currently run 6th and 9th, and potentially a couple of positions up for them as well as Colin as well on those new set of soft. These guys who have done the alternate strategy pretty well tonight, it looks like, and well, it does pick up 3 seconds for corner cutting there, the second chicane, but it looks like it's going to pay off handsomely for a few of these guys tonight who just did very good races on the medium tyres, and now getting the full benefits of those softer tyres coming into the race.
Yeah, it's looking like it's paying off, especially for those 2 Red Bull drivers on that alternate strategy. Nitrogas is now closing up on the back of Synchronously, as I think you just said, and it's looking like he's in a very handy position at the moment. So should there be any other incidents further ahead between the 2 championship protagonists, Nitrogas could find himself on the podium position.
and Colin as well, all over the back of the Mercedes of JSP. So potentially could drop a couple of positions more here, JSP. He will be at least a little bit relieved to know that the gap behind the Ferrari is about 10 seconds to Malc. So even on those new softs, I'm sure he will struggle to make the move on him before the end of the race, as Nitrogas does move up into P5 and ahead of synchronously. So was saying once again, more points up for offer for these Red Bull drivers, as Luke Bailey now 8/10 of a second behind his championship rival Craig, and Craig knows hasn't got a penalty as yet, and I'm sure he's going to do his best to keep it absolutely clean, but he just wants to hinder his championship rival's progress. And of course I'm not too sure where Nitrogas hangs up in penalties. I believe he already does have a 3-second time penalty, but if he doesn't, he could potentially 3.7 seconds behind. If Craig can sort of back up his championship rival, he could sort of, Nitrogas could make himself a real pain on the heels of Luke Bailey.
Yeah, he could find himself in a very handy position, and still in P4 of Luke Bailey if he does catch him a bit. And on those fresh soft tyres, he might even have the pace to do it. So he's got to get his head down and start pushing if he wants to. But yeah, Craig could be a bit sneaky and back his rival up.
And Cryptox there just looks like he's just lost it on the exit of the first Lesmo corner. Just a yellow flag, sector 2, and now it's a virtual safety car. So Luke Bailey, interestingly, comes into the pits very, very late. Might have been a good decision at the start, but he's now got himself a 5-second time penalty for speeding in the pit lane. And no, his pit crew are there rather late, and it's going to be a very slow pit stop. It's going to go on for a new set of softs, but it's going to drop him in a lot of positions, of course, not even including with the 5 seconds he just added. But that seems like it might just be a bad decision from the Alfa Romeo driver. Do you think that was just perhaps saw the virtual safety car pop up? Do you think that was a rush decision there?
I've got a feeling that's a bit of a mad decision. You don't get a completely free pit stop under the VSC. You still lose quite a lot of time, but yeah, I'm not entirely sure what was going through Luke's head there. He's maybe he's seen safety car pop up at the top of the screen and not read the virtual bit, but yeah, he was never going to be a winner at that situation, unless he just feels he's got too many penalties and wants to try and claw some time back anyway. But yeah, incredibly, I think Luke may have just thrown away a lot of points to his championship rival there.
I'm sure Craig would be probably looking in his rear mirror saying, where's the Alfa Romeo gone? Probably look to his minimap, seeing he's into the pits, and but I'm sure he'll be very pleased to see when he looks on his minimap where the Alfa Romeo has come out, because he's come out in P10 with a 5 seconds penalty as well for speeding in the pit lane, and he's now got a lot of time to make up, not just on track, but of course to try and get clear of the time penalties in course when he crosses that finish line as well. So all looking very nice for Durazio. He's kept a clean race as well. He's 7.5 seconds clear of still Craig, 4.7 seconds behind the Mercedes driver. Nitrogas, just before that VSC came out, has just pipped the second Renault of synchronously. And as you're saying, this is even though he's lost the position now, synchronously, he's doing his teammate a lot of good, because Renault now in a point where we've got Luke Bailey down to P10, Simon Palmer's dropped down to P13. Simon Palmer also pitted again at some point because he's now on the soft tyres. So the points are going to be very limited for the Alfa Romeo team, but Renault are going to pick up a lot of points. They've got 18 points to gain on Alfa Romeo in the constructors, and well, a lot of these 18 points are going to come from tonight if they stay where they are.
Yeah, I imagine you're absolutely right. They are going to gain a lot of points on the Alfa, and I can't quite for the life of me see why Luke has done that. So be interesting to see if we get an explanation later on in the week or after the race. But yeah, Simon obviously, like you say, must have pitted, and he made that mistake earlier on in the race. So it's looking good for the championship leader at the moment.
And nice little train of cars here, all squabbling for 8th, 9th and 10th, as it looks like Malc has just put a move on the Williams of Gareth, who's did put a move and now picks up 3 seconds going down the inside of Ascari, and Gareth's going to try and come round the outside of Malc in the sky, and it's going to go into the wall. He's just thankfully hasn't lost his wheel, and but he has lost his front wing end plate, and he's under a lot of damage now, and he's going to pull it all chances of a point scoring position, but just like he just took a little bit too much curve on the first corner of the Ascari chicane as Gareth just trying to weave right and then left again, trying to break the DRS of Luke Bailey. He knows he's got much better tyres, but he knows just 2 laps to go to hold on to it. Just took too much curve on the inside, just a compromised line on exit Ascari. It looked like he held it initially, but then lost it into the wall. And he's lucky he's just the front wing, but he has come into the pits, and Luke Bailey has now at least recovered to P8. But Gareth knows that if he can just keep with him, he may get the position back on penalties.
Yeah, it's unfortunate for Malc. He seemed to have got the move done into Ascari, and then just was a bit tentative on the brakes and allowed Gareth to come back at him through the corner, interestingly, and then just sort of bottled it on that curb in the exit, and unfortunately found himself out and looking at the wall.
See the McLaren have went on as well into P11. It's been a bit of a disaster race for the McLaren driver. Got to feel for him a little bit, getting disqualified and qualifying for getting out of the way. And that's the game just being very, very harsh. But he might be able to redeem himself a point at least. He's just a few tenths behind the Ferrari. He's going to have DRS coming into Ascari. He's looking quite racy. He's got fresher tyres than Spud in P10. So providing he's kept it clean as well in terms of corner cutting penalties, I think Spud might have a couple. So he might not even need to get this move done on track, if my memory serves me correct. And looks like all the cars just all beginning to just file out a little bit now. So Dragio 7 seconds clear of Still B. Looks like Still might just made a little bit of a mistake there, as has now come up to about 8 seconds. Craig, well, he hasn't quite had the pace of the top 2 in reality, but he had a very good qualifying. He's kept it clean. He of course had that incident with his championship rival of Luke Bailey, but he's kept it clean in terms of penalties. As we'll see what the McLaren driver can do. We're on the last lap now as their gap picks up 3 seconds, which is the last thing he would have wanted. But the McLaren pulls down to the inside. So Spud's going to try and fight it around the outside. Can he hang it around the outside? He's going to have the inside for turn 2. Little bit of contact, and but the McLaren just gets a better exit. And I think Spud just compromised a little bit there with the contact with the McLaren driver. And so we'll see if Luke Bailey, can he pick up another position? He's 7 tenths of a second behind JSP. Of course, penalties will come into it when they cross that start-finish line. But Ascari could be his last chance, as JSP does just lose it. We'll have to ride on board quickly, as it looks like it's going to get the move done. As Dragio, congratulations to him from start to finish. A fabulous win for the Toro Rosso driver. His 2nd win of the season. He is the man who stops the unpredictable dominance of 7 different race winners in 7 rounds. He is he wins his 2nd race of the season. Still be a fabulous race from him to finish 3rd. Second, Craig comes along the line 3rd. Nitrogas P4. Synchronizzi kicks up good constructors points, and Colin pushing him all the way to the line, less than a tenth of a second splitting them. Luke Bailey crosses the line P7. Penalties are going to drop him back though. JSP does get that place back, so he moves up into P7. Luke Bailey drops down into position 8. So I mean, it's just that last minute strategy call to pit under VSC, I think has just cost Luke Bailey a lot of points here. I think he maybe just in the panic that he wasn't going to beat Craig, his championship rival, tonight, but it's going to drop him even more points behind him. Gareth rounds out probably a very, very frustrating race for him. He knows just that one mistake realistically cost him points at a good scoring position, and but it's a good recovery drive to pick up 2 points nevertheless. Brenon's frustrating race for McLaren's team. He picks up the final point scoring position. But massive well done to the Toro Rosso driver of Dragio. He absolutely dominated the Italian Grand Prix. We all know what a massive slipstream of DRS fest this circuit can. Didn't let anyone get near him at all. He got a good start, and he absolutely dominated the car. Who won in Spa, and now he's got pole position in Brazil. He's saying he's very up and down. Hasn't quite had the consistency to fight the likes of Craig and Luke Bailey for the championship, but at least he's got a 2nd trophy to add to the cabinet, and I'm sure I'll be absolutely delighted with that. And a really good race from Still as well. He's had a couple of hard races, a few DNFs as well, and I'm sure he'll be very pleased being the 2nd spot on the podium. And of course Craig doing what he normally does, just finishing on the podium, keeping that consistency. I'm sure might bring up the question of the 2 championship rivals clashing on track at that 2nd chicane. Nitrogas, a fabulous race from him. He's picked up some real form in the 2nd half of the season since that half season break. And P4 Synchronizzi does well from 8th to 5th, so really nice result for the Renault team. Colin, the Ferrari driver, 16th to 6th. Fabulous race from him. JSP in P7. Luke Bailey loses points into P8. Gareth recovers to P9. Brennon's into the final sequence. No points for Simon Palmer. F1 Richard is frustrating night in P12. So Spud comes home P13. Stephen, a disappointing race for him. He's P14. Malc as well. Just a little bit of bad luck coming to the end. Cryptox P16 as well. But Charlie, if we're going to pick a driver of the night, I think the man who's top of the podium is surely the only driver who could probably get it tonight.
Yeah, it's got to be Dragio. For me, it's just a completely dominant performance. A notable mention as well, the Red Bull of Nitrogas and the Ferrari of Colin as well made up quite a few places in the race. So good drives from them as well.
Absolutely, I'm sure we'll be hearing from our top three hopefully very, very, very soon. But just before they join, if you enjoyed what you watched and you can't wait for more action, of course we do have more coming on the way very, very soon. Come Sunday night, we've got the Xbox League, and that is brought to you at 9:30 p.m. Of course, we have to make adjustments for it. It's a very multinational league that, and of course in the Americas, a few drivers over there. But that's streamed on twitch.tv. You can find that at /Invictus Racing League. Monday night, of course, that is the Canadian Gilles Villeneuve circuit next week. That is Monday, 8 p.m. Brought to you by Gareth and Sab. Realistic Performance League, that continues on Tuesday night. Again, round 8. That is Malc and Tim for you. Of course, the F2 League is always parallel of us. Wednesdays, 8 p.m. Brought to you by Dan and James. And we bring you round 8 as well. You can find us on all the socials at Instagram at Invictus Racing League. You can find us on Twitter at Invictus IRL. You can find us on Facebook, and of course on our website you can find everything you could possibly imagine in terms of Hall of Fame statistics, news, photo albums, interviews with drivers, and even stewards' inquiries if you like. And of course, if you liked and enjoyed, remember to like and subscribe, as I believe our top three have finally joined in, and I think Charlie's doing the questions tonight.
Yeah, if all the podium finishers can make sure that they've got their voice set to allowed to be shared in the party settings and that we can hear them loud and clear, I'll proceed with the questions. Are we ready?
Yep.
Okay, I'll start with Dragio. We saw you pick up the win in Belgium previously, and you had some good pace in Spain as well. Just that mistake at the end cost you a podium. Did you think you had this pace coming into this race?
Yeah. Without sounding okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
You're pretty confident.
I did. Well, I'd done a lot of practice this week over it. I didn't drive any other track but Monza. I really, after getting pole in Brazil and then having a really disappointing race, I really wanted to, I really wanted to have a good result. So yeah, practice, lots of practice, and it all came together.
And did you feel it was an easy race? It appeared from where we were sitting that you were really dominant, and no one could really get near you in the race. Obviously still sort of matched your pace in quali, but made a couple of mistakes in the race and found himself a little while back. But yeah, did you feel it was an easy race, or were you having to manage tyres or ERS or anything like that?
Yeah, I was managing tyres. My softs went off really quickly, so that's why I pitted lap 9. I wasn't sure if it was the right thing to do, but I went with it. But yeah, by no means easy. Yeah, I mean, everyone knows Monza, like the tiniest little mistake, and it's all over. So yeah, luckily I managed to keep my head and get the win.
Yeah, well done. It was as we said, completely dominant drive. It was good to watch. On to Steele. You had equal pace to Dragio in the qualifying. Was there any particular reason you couldn't carry that over to the race, or was it just those mistakes in the beginning that allowed a couple of cars ahead of you?
Yes, that mistakes cost me battling for first place. And after that, I go late in the first pit stop, and I think I lost time too. Yes, after that I tried to in second stint I tried to catch up, and yeah, I was waiting to have something happen between Craig and who was that, Luke or someone, and yes, I wait, and I just took a chance, and yes, second place.
That was going to be my next question. When you were behind Craig and Luke, could you see something happening? Were you just hanging back? You seemed like you had a pretty quick car on the straights. It was just it looked like you were just hanging back and waiting for something to happen.
I just use ERS without DRS without ERS, and waiting to see what happened. And of course, yeah, last three laps, I was full with fuel and ERS. So actually, this one was good for me. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, well done. It was a good recovery from what happened at the start, anyway. So yeah, good result still. And on to Craig. You qualified third. You finished third. So it's really a good race from you again. Just consistency getting you on that podium. Did you feel you had race pace to challenge Steele and Drago if you could have stayed closer to them, or was it just about staying ahead of your championship rival, Luke?
Coming in before the race, I had a little bit of a practice. Was hitting qualies of 19.5, 6s and 7s. Just didn't feel I carried that pace on into the main race tonight. In terms of race pace, I was trying to stick with Drago, but it was just too quick. Looking at the alphas, it looked as if they were really slipstreaming, but also DRSing each other as well. So I was trying to stay within the slipstream of the Drago and the DRS zone, but it was just couldn't hang with them at all. But yes, the objective again was the same tonight as last week, just trying to outscore Luke. I feel absolutely gutted that the race ended the way it did between me and Luke. Probably need to look back at what happened. Certainly apologise, Luke. I don't know if it was 6.5 a dozen of the other.
Yeah.
So it's just unfortunate that the race came to an end like that. But yeah, just trying to stay consistent as possible, taking one race at a time.
And again, that was going to be my next question. I was going to put you on the spot a bit. Just give us your instant reaction. What do you think happened between you and Luke?
I saw that he had the inside. I was just looking to brake as late as possible, give him room on the inside to make the first part of the chicane, and just try and go wheel to wheel round the second part, the right hander, and hopefully come out alongside him on the inside for the first Lesmo. It just looked as if we'd a coming together and ended up in the gravel and pretty much handed second place to Steele.
Yeah, obviously both going for the championship. Neither of you are going to want to back out there anyway. So I'll do one more question for all three drivers. I'll start again with Drago. Going on to Canada, do you feel you can carry this pace over to there?
I certainly hope so. I like Canada a lot. So yeah, we'll just see how it goes.
Okay. Cool. Steele, what are your thoughts on Canada? Do you think you can have another podium there?
I don't know. For me, Canada is always tough race, so we will see. Can tell.
Okay, and finally, Craig, your thoughts on Canada? Is it a track that you like and feel you can pick up another podium?
I like the unpredictability of the weather. So it is quite an exciting track. It's certainly got the wee twisty section of sector 1 and 2 and that fast sector 3. So yeah, looking forward to it and hoping just to carry a momentum into the final few races.
Yeah, good. That is the questions done. The drivers may stay in here or leave as you please now, and hand back to Harry.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, one final congratulations to all three drivers, and of course, Craig now means he hasn't finished off the podium since Spa. So really nice record. Really saying consistency might just win this championship, and Luke Bailey just be a little bit frustrated about himself. Maybe that late strategy call just cost him a few more points than he perhaps would have staying out. But of course, that's racing. And of course, we really look forward to the circuit de Jules Villeneuve, and that's a circuit, Charlie, where it's probably quite similar in a way. I think probably we'll see a lot of overtaking, a lot of DRS, but potentially, of course, a lot of penalties. But Luke Bailey now is gonna have to really try and recoup quite a lot of points on Craig, I would have thought, after tonight.
Yeah, it's going to be crucial now going into these final races. Just that Craig keeps his consistency, because he's gained a lot on Luke tonight. So just got to keep the consistency up and sort of manage that gap until we reach round 12 in Monaco.
Absolutely, then. And of course that does bring the stream to an end. I hope you very much enjoyed round 8 tonight. Of course, round 9 is of course next week, Wednesday at 8 p.m. Of course, brought in parallel with the F2 League, and streamed on live on YouTube. So we hope to see you there. Hope you very much enjoyed, and thank you very much for joining us. And very good night. Thank you.